Welcome to the panel, Going Beyond Greed, and we're going to talk about the impacts of social enterprise and social entrepreneurship on the world's economy. Small subject, I guess. And I want to welcome today, I'm Vinny Tafuro, but in this role, I'm the founder and president of Conscious Capitalism Florida. We're a nonprofit affiliated chapter with the International Conscious Capitalism movement that advocates for business with a purpose and what's called conscious leadership and conscious capitalism. So anyway, you've met Phil. My other panelist is Debbie Farah with
Bajalia International Group.
I haven't pronounced it. We just met through email, so I've been doing terrible with this so far, but thank you so much. And Sean Seipler with Clean the World, both based in Orlando. So what I love about this is we're really bringing a central Florida aspect to this conversation, that we know social enterprise. So I'm going to give each of you, we'll start with Debbie, about 7 minutes to kind of go over what your business is and introduce yourself.
Certainly. I'm Debbie Farah with Bajalia International, and Bajalia International is shopping the world while we're changing the world. And what that means exactly is I came out of the high-end fashion retail industry. I was a creative director at Neiman Marcus, and I was asked to go be a photographer overseas and document some work that a nonprofit was doing with women. I had a passion for women. Being a Middle Eastern woman and growing up seeing a lot of violence to women, that was a huge issue in my world. So I jumped at the opportunity to do some photography. That led me to really understanding some of the global women issues, some of the gender issues around the world. And as a 14-year-old Arab woman, I got my first job. So with that, I got a voice. So one of the things, if we fast forward to today, what I do is give a women voice around the world through jobs. And we create jobs through manufacturing of high-end fashion jewelry, accessories, and home goods. We distribute those with major retailers. I was just in town because I was on HSN for International Women's Day this week. We launched 5 years ago on International Women's Day on HSN, and it's a great venue to tell the story of the women globally. So we have a wholesale business as well as a retail business, a web-based retail business, that we market the products along with the stories, and women are helping women around the world really change their lives to a significant way. When a woman gets money, it's been proven that 90% of that money goes back to the betterment of the community, and most women hire other women. And in many cases, we have our women hiring their brothers and their husbands now too. So that's been a huge change. We work places like Afghanistan. We work in India, we work in Pakistan, we work in some of the places where it's hardest to be a woman in the world. We have an extensive work in Africa, we work in Kenya, we work in Ghana, we work in Congo, we work in a lot of different places around the world. We are, other clients of ours, we did a Neiman Marcus gift this year for their Christmas catalog. We did a fantasy gift, which was a Christmas box, a big jewelry box filled with 250 pieces of jewelry from all over the world that told the story of those women and those producers. Craftsmanship is a dying art, handmade is a dying art, and so the combination of keeping that art and skill alive, which is many times a generational skill. A lot of times our girls might have to drop out of school because their parents don't have enough money to put the boys and girls in school. So the girls that have to drop out of school can go into our work groups, where we also have life skill education for them and some additional education for them in our work groups. So we're a combination social enterprise. We have a nonprofit that we also operate alongside of. I founded my nonprofit first to test all of my theories and hypotheses before I launched the for-profit initiative. So other clients, we're in Dillard's, we're getting ready to go into Macy's. We have quite a few new catalog clients that we'll be launching this fall. We're launching in Frontgate catalog, we'll be launching in other places. And each and every one of these retailers is really interested in really having a better story themselves. And more corporations are getting interested in social enterprise, but they can't do it themselves. So we are their bridge to that social enterprise, to take the things that they are doing and make them more valuable. You know, Bill Drayton says that in 15 years, he's the chairman of Ashoka, He says in 15 years, we'll cease to be using the word social enterprise because every corporation, if it doesn't have a social mission, it will cease to exist. And that's true. That's what will happen. So that's what we do. That's who we are. And I think that's all.
Thank you. I just have to say I love to hear that introduction and what you have to say about that. I think the same thing with conscious capitalism. The word will disappear. So, Sean, your story, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning. It's fantastic to be on the stage again with Debbie. We have done this several times for over several years, and Bajalia is such an incredible organization. Debbie's just doing amazing work for women all over the world, and so it's my honor again to be here talking with you. So I'm the founder and CEO of Clean the World. Hopefully you have heard of us. We are a global social enterprise. We're comprised of 13 organizations across the globe. We have not-for-profits and B Corps integrated as hybrids. And so to tell you kind of who we are, I'll take you back 7 years ago. I was a vice president for a technology company. I ran a global sales team, and I was on the road about 4 nights a week. And one day in a hotel room in Minneapolis, I called the front desk and I asked them what happened to the bar of soap when I was done using it. And they told me that they threw it away. And I thought that was really interesting. I did some research and figured out that in the United States, we were throwing away 1 million bars of soap every single day. I thought that was a tremendous amount of waste. I found very easily how you could recycle that soap. And then in the effort to figure out what I could do with that soap, I ran across a study, and then a second study, and a third study, and compiled about 15 different studies that showed that at that time, in 2009, there were 9,000 children dying every single day to pneumonia and diarrheal disease. It was the number 1 and number 2 killers of children worldwide. And these studies showed that if you went into these populations and if you gave the children soap, and if you taught them how and when to wash their hands, that you could cut those deaths in half. I literally had a moment when I was sitting on my bed in early 2009. I've got a wife, 4 kids, a lot of stock options for a company that actually Google bought a couple years ago for $125 million. But I'm sitting there going, there's 1 million bars of soap being thrown away every single day out of hotels, and there's 9,000 children dying every day, and I can save those lives if I just figure out how to get the soap from the hotels, recycle it, and get it into their hands. And so in early 2009, a little bit of crazy in me, I decided to leave my job and got some family members, and we all got into a single-car garage, and we all sat around on upside-down pickle buckets, and we scraped the outside of bars of soap that we were collecting from hotels all across Orlando. And we would cook them in cookers, and we would grind it up with meat grinders, and all day we would sit there and cook soap. And I always love to tell this story. It was all of my Puerto Rican family members. So if you can just imagine a bunch of Puerto Ricans in a garage cooking soap. First time the police drove by the garage, they wanted to see what we were cooking. And to their dismay, we were cooking soap. And that's how we launched 7 years ago. If I fast forward to today, we have successfully distributed 30 million bars of soap to children, families, and mothers in 100 countries across the globe. We've diverted 18 million pounds of waste from hotels. We sell a recycling program to a hotel that has a life at the end of it. We have 4,000 hotels that run our program. We have corporate agreements with every major hotel chain: Marriott, Hilton, Starwood, Hyatt, Wyndham, Best Western, Carlson Residor, Sands, Disney, you name them, we've got them. We have 70 global employees now. Our headquarters are in Orlando. We also have a recycling center in Las Vegas. We have one in Hong Kong. We have an office in Montreal. And we've just opened up operations in Europe. And we actually are having a really successful launch in Europe. A number of hotels across Paris and across London are now running our program. We've created a second program, a second product, where we engage meetings and corporations all over the world to build assembly lines so that they can take their employees or their consumers or those they're trying to reach out to, and they build hygiene kits. So they get an empty bag of soap, and they put an empty bag, and they put a recycled bar of soap and repurposed bottles and a brand new toothbrush and toothpaste and disposable razor and other hygiene items, and then they donate them to local homeless shelters, relief organizations. Even here in the United States, we have 42 million Americans on the SNAP program, which is the food stamps. And of course, when flu season comes along, what do we tell everybody to do to make sure you don't get sick and catch the flu? Tell you, wash your hands, right? But of course, those that are on food stamps cannot use food stamps to buy hygiene products. You can't buy soap. You can't buy toothbrush and toothpaste. So we have a tremendous need here, even domestically, and so we send out millions of hygiene kits as well. So that's what we do, and 7 years later, I'm happy to report that my wife is still with me. She didn't leave, and even happier to report, well, I'd put these on equal footing. Today, if you remember when we started, there were 9,000 children that were dying every day to pneumonia and diarrheal disease. Today, we have reduced that death rate by more than 30%. There are less than 6,000 children dying. It's still, thank you very much. It's still a child every 15 seconds, so we still have a lot of work to do, and we see a lot of other tremendous impacts, such as kids in Afghanistan, where we have a program in Pakistan and Kenya where if they get sick, they don't go to school. And it's so important for these young girls to go to school, especially in areas where they don't, the regional leaders don't want them to go to school. And so our hygiene products help play a part in so many aspects of their lives. So thank you. I'm happy to be here. Got here in the nick of time, and happy to talk to you today. This is a tremendous conference and tremendous effort we've got going on here. Thank you, Vinny.
Thank you. Thanks for both of your stories. And I think I'll start with Phil and kind of what you talked about earlier about the last generation and tearing down the planet, and this one and that idea. So kind of your thoughts on the spectrum of what's going on at the university level, because you and I were at UT, but you see this at all of the universities in Central Florida are picking up on this. So some thoughts on the colleges and their aspect of what they're teaching.
Sure. I think the University of Tampa saw this new wave of social entrepreneurship, which is why they spent so much money building the Entrepreneurship Center, which just opened in September. And they're trying to capitalize on the momentum that this millennial generation is trying to pioneer. And I think that a lot of millennials are catching a lot of flack because it's the me generation. But if we're helping to change the world, or we believe that we shouldn't be working unless we're doing something that we're not only interested in, but is helping the planet or people, why not adapt and be flexible to that idea?
Mm-hmm. I was just talking outside in the lobby about that, and I think maybe you two can comment on this. There's an organization here, Encore Tampa Bay, that is taking boomers that are looking for an encore career, and they're usually looking for fulfillment. And I talked with Bevan Rogel, their founder, about how it's the millennials are just looking to do now what boomers are looking to do in their retirement. And it's like, we just want the same things. We want to have fulfillment with what we do. And if you can kind of look at that in the scale that you're seeing in the business realm in Orlando, maybe if one of you could give a little bit on that, both.
I'm also involved in a couple of college campuses in Orlando. One is Rollins Center. Rollins has a sustainable and social enterprise degree. They're one of the first colleges to do that. I'm on their SESI, their Social Enterprise Advisory Board. And then I'm also very involved with UCF that has us speak regularly, both of us, at the launch pad and starting entrepreneurs. I'm probably the only boomer on the panel. So I can address, it is the largest segment of society that's starting businesses right now, is the over 50 generation. And so there's a lot to be said about that. I know someone said older women, earlier in the panel I heard, oh, older women didn't start businesses, so he didn't have a niche in that. And I was like, well, yeah, they do at a record pace right now. Maybe not when he was talking. So I think one of the things about our company in particular is 85 to 90% of my staff is millennials looking for a career that matters. And especially when you look at the fashion industry, which tends to be a little more of a frivolous type career choice, but women that love fashion, and using that for a purpose changes everything for them. So we do a lot of recruiting of millennials at the fashion schools, at the design schools, Savannah College of Art and Design, Parsons, and Fashion Institute. And so that we are a niche in that market. There are other fashion companies, not that have scaled like we have, but that are really looking. And one of the things we find the most energizing in our office is it is a workforce that is extremely respectful from the different ages. We have one great grandmother in our office who works down in our warehouse. And she works alongside of one of our high school students. And we have extreme diversity in our office, which really calls for extreme creativity. And we love the diversity of the different ages and the different ethnicities and different things, because it really calls for a more creative environment. So we love our millennials, but we also love our great-grandmothers in that way.
Great.
Um,
Let me comment on that
Yeah.
just real quick, because I have had the privilege of doing a lot of speaking across the globe, and go to a lot of universities, so I get to speak to a lot of those that are being inspired with social impact companies, social enterprises, and we are really at a very interesting time, because you're exactly right in that a lot of the same things that millennials have gone through, and really what really has put millennials where they're at today is the fact that all the things that have happened, they've been able to see very close with their smartphones. You know, whether it's 2 airplanes being flown into the Twin Towers, or major earthquakes, major hurricanes, the financial depression, all of those things that have impacted them and have caused them to really believe the way they do in terms of wanting to give back and help others and really have that desire. The interesting thing is that baby boomers went through those very same things. Now, they may not have had that content driven directly into them. They came through a time when their parents would, you know, when the 6 o'clock news came on, they would tell them to, you know, to maybe not watch, but they saw it. They went through Vietnam. They went through just a lot of different scenarios that have them thinking that they want to give back. As a matter of fact, baby boomers are the most philanthropic generation in the history of the world. Baby boomers have given more money from a philanthropy standpoint than all other generations combined before them. Now, you've got some, you know, you've got a Bill Gates on the top end there who really helps, you know, make that number. But the fact is that baby boomers are very philanthropic. So you have this great opportunity where you have millennials who want to work for companies, start companies, solve the world's problems. They want to, that's what they care about. And then you also have baby boomers who have all the wealth, who are also looking at their portfolio managers and saying, you know, if you've got a bad PR situation that occurs, the baby boomer is going to drop you out of the portfolio. You can't have a, you know, sweatshop somewhere. I mean, they're looking at the supply chain. They're looking at areas within the organizations that they are invested in. So it's a great time to start a company, whether you're young or old, whether you're a baby boomer or millennial, because the capital is out there. It's developing. The statuses are out there. The B Corps. Those types of corporations are finding their way all over the world, and really the culture and the time around the world is now to be able to start those companies. And obviously, just like the head of Ashoka said, if you're not doing that in, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8 years from now, you're just not in business. It's just what you have to do. So it's a great time to start a mission impact company.
Well, I just want to mention one thing about that. It is what you have to do, but you have to do it authentically. Authenticity probably is the key word when you're looking at attracting a millennial workforce. And companies that are just trying, like I run into companies all the time saying, oh, we want to do this, you know, it's not part of your brand and it's not part of your story and it doesn't fit you, don't do it. And so it's not just about doing a social enterprise, it's about choosing that thing that makes sense for you. I have a friend that owns, he's on HSN as well, he owns a really large vitamin company. So they donate prenatal vitamins to women in developing countries. You know, it needs to be part of your brand. It needs to be part of your company. So many companies are wanting to jump on the social enterprise bandwagon, but they don't know how and it doesn't fit them. So I would say authenticity is the biggest key message here.
That's a great point.
I think when you talk to authenticity, and that's one of those things, in the advertising and branding side, which has been primarily my background the last few years, you know, the AAF does an ethics certificate for advertising companies because we're the mouthpiece as an industry for the brands that come to us. And there's a lot of conversation between the companies and the advertising brands to make sure we talk about those things. What I'd like to see is kind of what's happening on college campuses with that conversation between the marketing and advertising. And I don't know, curriculum-wise, if one of you can chime in on that side. The communication between, I guess, the marketing tradition, like in UT, there's the ethics, there's sustainable business programs happening, but how much are they talking to the marketing side of the education?
I think they're behind. I think it's really what's happening is they're seeing their students completely change their interests, and the schools are trying to catch up. And no offense to the world of academia, but it's an antiquated system that's a slow-moving system, and they're seeing that their students have different demands, different needs, different interests, and now they're saying, oh shoot, we better catch up and hang on for the ride because they're taking us in a different place that we weren't expecting to go. And unless they adapt, just like a business needs to adapt to its market's needs, its customers' needs, they're going to die. And so they need to adapt quickly. And I think that's what's happening. It's not, there's very few universities that are pioneering this new wave of social entrepreneurship.
That's siloing time. And I see by the nods that we're in agreement on that.